Grace and peace to you. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is found in the end of Genesis, from starting about chapter 37 and then all the way to the end of 50. So it's about 13 chapters, but it's a great story, and I invite you to read it. But it's a story about Joseph and his brothers. There's 12 of them all together. Joseph, when he is a little boy, he keeps having these dreams of being great. In fact, he's going to be greater than all of his brothers. He's even going to be greater than his dad, and he feels compelled to share these dreams with everybody. And he tells them how they will one day bow down before him. Well, that doesn't sit well with his brothers, of course. And on top of that, it doesn't help that he's also Dad's favorite little son, and so there's quite a bit of hostility between him and his brothers. And they get sick and tired of hearing about his little dreams. They get sick and tired of him always being treated better. One day, Dad has the 11 brothers working out in the field. So you got to imagine how this is going on, right? They're out there in the heat of the day. They've been breaking their backs all day. They've been working. They're sweating. And meanwhile, Joseph's sitting at home with Dad, just dreaming up how great he'll be one day. And so when his dad finally sends him out just to check on his brothers, make sure they're making progress, they see him coming, and it's the last straw. They've had it. So they plot to kill him. When he comes up here, we're going to kill him, and we'll just tell Dad, sorry, some wild animal must have eaten him or something like that. And so they have him down in this pit to die. And a caravan comes by, and they think, well, there's no real profit in just killing him. We'll sell him as a slave. And so they sell him, and he ends up in Egypt. And I'm really, kind of skipping over a lot of the good parts. I hope you read it. But he ends up down in Egypt, where he works his way up. God is with him the whole time, and he works his way up, and he becomes second only to Pharaoh. He has control over all of Pharaoh's land, all of Pharaoh's property. He's the second most powerful person in Egypt. And he's been living down there for quite a few years. And some circumstances happen that his brothers have to come down to him and beg for food, beg for some forgiveness. And they don't know it's him because he's dressed like an Egyptian. He's speaking Egyptian. He's been gone for a long time. As far as they know, he is gone. He's working as a slave somewhere. And so there he is sitting on this throne, and they're bowed down just like he had dreamed, bound down before him. And I won't spoil the end, but they discover who he is, and he tells them, but it's an awesome ending. And I do want to share the one verse, the whole point of this. And it's chapter 50, verses 19 and 20. Joseph says to his brothers, "Do not be afraid. I am in the place of God. Even though you intended to harm me, God intended it for good." Even though you intended to do harm to me, God intended it for good. And what I like about this story and this ending is that there are some times when really bad things happen to us in life, like happened to Joseph. And why would God allow this to happen? These people hate me. These people intend to harm me. These people really want what's not good for me. They will hurt me. And God allows this to happen. It isn't until years later, decades later, looking back, that he sees this was actually God at work. It hurt at the time. It wasn't punishment or anything like that. It hurt. He had to go through this because God had a bigger purpose and plan. And so if you're going through something that's rather hard right now, and you're wondering, why is God allowing this to happen? I just invite you to read this story about Joseph, and he has what we call faith, a trust that God has a plan. God has a bigger plan that sometimes we can't see. We may never even see it in our lifetime. He was lucky he got to see it at the end. But sometimes these stories in the Bible, they go beyond your generation. And it's not until we look back that we realize God was at work here. Even though I suffered at the moment, a greater good came. May God our Father walk beside you each and every day, especially through the hard times. Amen.